Jordan Peterson legitimizes the philosophy that the incels have of their hostility towards women. This didn't just happen to Jordan Peterson, it's happened to my buddy Young Don, overflowing from what we would call a Christian worldview. There's a lot of men who are hurting.
Ruslan.
You guys know me. I don't agree with everything Jordan Peterson says. I've made videos disagreeing with some of the things he talks about, especially with kind of his prescription to churches. And I really do hope to someday have a conversation with him. But what I don't appreciate is when people completely miscategorize folks based on nonsense. Okay. And so what we're going to look at today is a video from Chris Williamson, and it says reacting to Incel God Jordan Peterson in new Olivia Wilde movie. Okay. So Olivia Wilde making a movie, Jordan Peterson, Incel God. This is mind-blowing. Shout out to Chris Williamson. His channel's pretty dope.
Incel God, Jordan Peterson, was the basis for Don't Worry Darling, Bad Guy. So this is an article from The Independent talking about an interview with Olivia Wilde, who is the director for this new film. And in a recent interview with Interview magazine, Wilde spoke to fellow actor Maggie Gyllenhaal about the inspiration behind Frank's character. We based that character on this insane man, Jordan Peterson.
On this insane man, Jordan Peterson. Now, if you don't know what incels are, incels is a demographic of men who are involuntarily celibate. And they're not a big fan of the label, but that's what it means.
Who is this pseudo-intellectual hero of the incel community, Wilde said. She further explained that the incels as a community of disenfranchised, mostly white men who believe that they are entitled to sex from women. They believe that society has now robbed them and that the idea of feminism is working against nature and we must be put back into the correct place, Wilde added. Peterson began reading blah, blah, blah. Wilde continued, this guy, Jordan Peterson, is someone that legitimizes certain aspects of the incels movement because he's a former professor, he's an author, he wears a suit, so they feel like this is a real philosophy that should be taken seriously.
So they said Jordan Peterson legitimizes the philosophy that the incels have of their hostility towards women. Now, this video is actually an interview with my friend Hafiz from The Roommates, okay? This came out a month or two after I was on this very same podcast. I had the same conversation with Hafiz and almost said the same thing, so much so that I did a reaction video to this Jordan Peterson video and how completely anti-red pill, anti-black pills Jordan Peterson's advice was. So shout out to Hafiz for having this conversation, but this blew a lot of people's mind when he came out with this, all right?
To young men who are irritated at women is, if you're irritated at women, you know, as a class of creature, there's something wrong with you because they're right. You're wrong. They're right to not pick you. If they're not picking you, it's because they're right.
He does a great job of separating the kind of cultural or a group or higher level factors that might be making it more difficult for individual men to find relationships. But he, as always, focuses on the sovereignty of the individual. And he says that cultural thing is not your problem. Your problem is you. And
just one second here. Why are you an authority to speak about incels? Why should anyone that's watching this video believe what you've got to say with any authority?
Right. Okay. So I should explain. I did my master's thesis on the psychology of incels. I've just recently graduated from Brunel University in London with a master's in psychology, culture and evolution. I'm currently a PhD student here at UT Austin, studying with the supervision of Dr. David Buss.
So Dr. David Buss is who I cited in my video. If you guys hadn't seen it, you should go really watch it, on the idea on if men and women can be friends, post Matt Chandler debacle, okay? And Dr. David Buss is the leading psychologist on this conversation, okay? Specifically, intersexual dynamics. If you guys don't know who Dr. David Buss is and you're looking to better understand dynamics, don't go to the red pill stuff. Go to Dr. David Buss. In my opinion, I think he does some really good work on that. Not Christian, not none of that. Just this is what the data shows. So this gentleman is working on a PhD program underneath Dr. David Buss.
And yeah, I'm focusing a lot more research on the incel topic. And my study for my master's dissertation is one of the highest participant counts for an incel study out there. So we have some findings that directly refute Olivia Wilde's claim, certainly that it's a predominantly white movement. There's a significant portion of the incelosphere that are incels of color.
This man said the incelosphere.
Lowered expectations.
The incelosphere. I've never heard of that in my life. That's amazing.
In fact, 36.5% of my sample of 151 incels were incels of color. And that's in a majority US and UK sample. So that is
disproportionately. Yeah.
So that's immediately poorly researched on the behalf of Olivia Wilde. But also, just to classify Jordan Peterson, 30-year career as a professor, one of the most cited personality psychologists out there, stellar academic career. To classify him as just pseudo-intellectual or pseudo-science, it's really wide of the mark.
Did you ever speak?
So this is the problematic part about this, is now when someone comes out in favor of what we would say are very standard nuclear family, man, woman, married, in the house, together, leading a child. When someone comes out for these sorts of things and speaks up for these sorts of things, they're easily miscategorized and dismissed as incel gods. This didn't just happen to Jordan Peterson. This happened to my buddy Young Don. Whole thing made about him being the incel god, a lot of old clips before he was a Christian, taken out of context and kind of used to weaponize him. And it was by someone that got him kicked off of Twitch because they didn't believe some of his Christian sex ethic views, right? And so this type of mischaracterization, this type of sleight of hand, you're going to see it more and more. So be careful when you see this sort of stuff just dropped flippantly, labels by whatever side, right? There's always a label to try to dismiss and discredit what someone's saying instead of, hey, let me listen to what they're actually saying and process it internally. Is there merit to their claims? And everything Jordan Peterson has said specifically to this community has been what any sensible person, whether you're a feminist, not feminist, fourth wave, like these are all sensible things he says that got him in trouble with the red pill and got him in trouble with the black pill community, right? Guys like Rollo who were mad making videos about him. So
to incels about Jordan Peterson, did he ever come up? Because you did a ton of qualitative interviews as well as this huge survey that gave you a ton of data that you analyzed. Did he ever come up?
He comes up sometimes in the individual conversations for any incels who think that they still have hope of engaging with the mating market and want to kind of develop themselves. But it's always in a classically positive light of, oh, he's making me believe I can make tomorrow better than yesterday, and just only in that self-development type of thing. They never really use Jordan Peterson rhetoric as an excuse for being incel, because
it wouldn't work. I don't understand how you could align Jordan Peterson's approach for men. There isn't a single time, and I've watched a lot of his stuff, there isn't a single time that I can remember where he's placed the blame of the ineffectiveness of men in the dating market at their own feet. He has always said, well, you better pull those bootstraps up, bucko. Like that's his bag, right? Yeah. He is saying, if all of the women don't like you, it's not the women, it's you. You are the common denominator between all of these situations.
What do you expect from women? If you got pregnant because you had sex, you'd be pretty damn choosy too. So, clue in a bit. And then, well, don't they find you attractive? Well, maybe you're not. Like, have you paid attention to how you dress? Do you have a plan? Are you as educated as you could be? Are you a liar? Are you a rabid pornography user? Because maybe that's undermining your motivation too.
This man is going in. I'm not sure how anybody would be like, yay, he's enabling incels. He's enabling the red pill. He's enabling men to be hostile towards women.
Seek out a woman and grow yourself up.
Speaking of common denominators, I wasn't familiar with Olivia Wilde before this story came out. I recognize her from some movies. Shia LaBeouf was supposed to star in the film, but she got replaced by Olivia's boyfriend, Harry Styles, because Shia's process wasn't conducive to the film continuing forward. Then a video got leaked that she had sent to Shia saying that she still was broken up about all of this and that she very much wanted to have him back. Florence Pugh, another star of the show, isn't doing any press on this press tour because she fell out with Olivia as well. On the trailer, it's got this sort of Handmaid's Tale-ish kind of tilt to it. It looks like all of the women stay at home and all of the men go out to work. It's got this sort of 1960s aesthetic as well. And one thing that's really interesting is gaslighting is literally written into the title.
Whoa,
Don't worry, darling, right? It's a little bit condescending. It's presumably the men, I don't know what it is, but the men are away doing something. They say that they're working, but it seems like there's suspicion around whether or not they are. And one of the characters goes and does investigation and she's being told that you're crazy and everything's going to be fine. Like gaslighting is literally written into the title. So the fact that they used... I don't understand. It's...
Yeah, I think that's the point here. Like, we don't understand. Like, how... Again, I'm not mad at people who have disagreements with Jordan Peterson. I have disagreements with Jordan Peterson, right? But this degree of miscategorization, I think, is not an attack on Jordan Peterson. It's an attack on what he represents. It's an attack on the values he represents, which are oftentimes directly congruent or directly overflowing from what we would call a Christian worldview. Say what you want. I'm not saying he's a Christian. I don't know where he's at with Jesus on a day-to-day basis. Michaela, his daughter, seems rather saved, rather active in her faith. She just did a whole video with my buddy John McCrae on the Unbelievable channel. And so I think this is very problematic. And this is one of those things where they miscategorize what people actually say, as you guys saw it, heard it from the horse's mouth, in the name of what they believe this person represents. And this stuff happens to people all the time. It happened to my buddy Young Don. I'm sure at some point it'll happen to me. Instead of hearing what I've said in context, it'll be this. No, he's really this. He's really that, right? And so, this and the idea of the incels is fascinating because there's a lot of men who are hurting. There's a lot of men who are going through it. Tomorrow, make sure you're subscribed and your bell notifications on. We're doing a video on the statistics about male and female attraction, and that most women don't find 80% of men as attractive, right? This is a real statistic that was put on, I believe, by OkCupid, right? And then we'll give you some hope, and we'll look at specifically what you can do as a man to tip the scales in your favor. What kinds of things instantly make you go up, right? And we'll look at this video. You guys are going to love it. And we'll look at that, right? Because it's important, especially a lot of men watch this channel. A lot of single men watch this channel. You guys will be struggling, trying to figure it out. We're going to be looking at it, and I think you guys are going to really appreciate it. So make sure you're subscribed, bell notifications on.
And it said that Simeon blessed God.